My name's Roger Ostrander. I drove a city bus in Lincoln, Nebraska for 31 years, Route 14 mostly, out to the medical center and back, and the university runs when the regular fellas called in sick. You learn a town from the driver's seat. You learn who gets on where, and who's had a bad week, and which old gal will tell you her whole life between 27th and the transfer station. 31 years. My knees are shot from the clutch on the old diesels, and my hearing's not what it was, and I'd tell you I earned every bit of it. I'm not going to make my kids the villains here, so don't wait for it. There aren't any villains in this. That's the part that took me the longest to understand. Here's what happened, plain. My wife Eileen passed. 4 years back now, a little more. Cancer, the slow kind, the kind that gives you time and takes it at the same time. We had the house on Sewell Street, free and clear, 30 years of payments, finally ours. A little brick ranch with a maple out front that Eileen planted the year Danny was born. After she was gone, that house was pretty much the whole of what we had. A driver's pension and Social Security and a paid-off ranch. That was the estate. That was the pile. And I've got 3 kids. Danny and my daughter Kathy out in Denver, and my youngest, Mark, and they're good kids. I want that on the record. Kathy was underwater on her own place after her divorce. Mark and his wife had a boy with some medical bills that'd make your eyes water. And me, I didn't want to be the old man sitting on the one asset making everybody wait around for me to die to get their share. That's a rotten thing to do to people you love. So we sold the house on Sewell Street, split it 4 ways, even a share each for the kids, a share for me. That was my idea, by the way. Nobody twisted my arm. I thought it was the fair thing. I still think it was the fair thing. But here's the arithmetic that nobody warns you about. A house split 4 ways doesn't buy you a house. My share came to about $32,000. And you take $32,000 in a bus driver's pension and you go looking for a decent place to grow old in America, in this day and age, and you sit down in the leasing office and the girl slides the paper across. And the rent on a 1-bedroom is more than half of everything you bring in every month. And that's before the electric, before the co-pays, before a single thing goes wrong. And you do that math twice because you don't believe it the first time. I didn't have anywhere to land. That's the honest shape of it. I moved into Danny's spare room, which turned into the garage when the grandkids needed the room, and I told everybody it was temporary. I told everybody I was figuring it out. And I want to be careful how I say this, because Danny never once made me feel like a burden that was all me, that feeling. But there's a particular kind of quiet a man gets, sitting in a borrowed chair at 6 in the morning at 69 years old, with no door of his own to close. You've maybe felt a version of it. You don't have a word for it, and neither did I. I wasn't angry. People expect angry. I was just done. Emptied out. The town I'd driven for 31 years didn't have a corner in it that was mine anymore. Eileen was in the ground at Wayuka. The house had somebody else's mailbox. And I'd sit in that chair and think, is this it? Is this the last chapter? A folding lawn chair and a stack of Christmas totes? I'll tell you exactly when it turned, because it's almost too dumb to admit. It was February, and it was 5 degrees, and I couldn't sleep, and I was watching videos on my phone with the sound off so I wouldn't wake the house. And the little machine that decides what you watch decided I should watch a fella about my age, sitting on a balcony somewhere green, eating a bowl of noodles in his undershirt, sweating, happy. Thailand, the words said, Chiang Mai. And down below the video, some other old boy had typed out his whole monthly budget. Rent, food, the works. I read that number 3 times, same as the rent paper in the leasing office. I read it 3 times because I didn't believe it the first time either. Only this time it was for the opposite reason. I sat there in the cold with my dead phone light on my face, and I thought a thought I hadn't thought in years. Maybe. And that maybe is the whole reason you're hearing from me at all. Now, I'm not an impulsive man. You don't drive a bus for 31 years by being impulsive. You run the route, you keep the schedule, you don't take the corner faster than the corner allows. So I didn't sell my soul to a YouTube video in one night. What I did was worse. In a way, I got quiet and obsessive about it, and I didn't tell a living soul for 2 months. I bought a legal pad, yellow one, from the drugstore, and every morning in that lawn chair, instead of just marinating in the gray, I started writing numbers down. What I actually had coming in, Social Security, which for me runs about $1,800 a month, I drove for the city I paid in my whole life, so I've got it real and steady. And the transit pension on top, which is modest, call it $1,000 a month. So a little under $2,800, all in, every month, guaranteed until the day I die. That's not nothing. In Lincoln, it just wasn't enough to have a life and a roof both. Then I wrote down what that fella in the video claimed his life cost. And I didn't trust him. You shouldn't trust a stranger's number. That's rule 1. So I went digging. Expat forums, the boring ones where people argue about the price of chicken and the electric bill in the hot season. Facebook groups full of old boys complaining, which is exactly where the truth lives. Because a complainer will tell you the real cost of something faster than a salesman ever will. And the numbers kept landing in the same place. A single fella living decent, not fancy, not a beach mansion, just decent in a city called Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand, was spending somewhere around 45,000 baht a month, which meant nothing to me until I did the conversion. And the conversion is easy once it's in your bones, about 33 baht to the dollar. So 45,000 baht is a little under $1,400 a month, all in. Rent, food, the fan going day and night, a doctor when you need one, a beer when you want one. I want you to sit in that lawn chair with me for a second and feel what that does to a man. My income is $2,800 a month. A whole life in this place, they're describing costs about $1,400. That's not squeaking by. That's not surviving. That's a genuine gap better than $1,000 a month left over every single month after the life is already paid for. Money I could put back into the cushion the house split left thin. Money I could fly home on to see the grandkids. Money I had not had one loose dollar of in 4 years. I read it 3 times. You'll notice that's a habit of mine. Now the hard parts. I made myself write those down too on the back of the legal pad because a number that only has good news in it is a lie. Rent for a 1-bedroom in Chiang Mai runs, call it 13,000 baht, right around $400, and that's real. That's not the 500 a month fairy tale you'll see people peddle. Anybody tells you you'll live like a king on $500 a month over there is selling you something. It's a myth. The real number for a decent single life is more like 1,500, and I'd rather you hear that from me straight than find it out on the ground. The visa was its own headache, and I read about it until my eyes crossed. For a man my age, I was 69. By then, the sensible road is what they call the in-country non-O. You go in, and you convert it once you're there. And the nice thing about that road for an old fella is it doesn't drag you into the mandatory health insurance the other visa, the OA, makes you carry. And to qualify, you either park 800,000 baht in a Thai bank that's about $24,000, and it has to genuinely sit there. You can't fake it, or you show income of 65,000 baht a month, which is a little under $2,000, and my 2,800 clears that with room to spare. But look at what parking 800,000 baht means for a man with $32,000 to his name. That's damn near everything I had, sitting locked in a bank on the other side of the planet. I'm not going to pretend that didn't scare me. It scared me plenty. I'd lie in the dark in Danny's garage and think about my whole share of Eileen's maple tree sitting frozen in some Bangkok bank, and I'd think, Roger, you have lost your mind. Then there was the other thing, the thing everybody my age has to reckon with, Medicare. I'm well past 65. I'm on it, Part A's free in mine. But here's the fact that stops people cold, and it stopped me. Medicare does not cover you 1 inch outside the United States, not in Thailand, not anywhere. So I had a decision to make, and I'll get to how I made it. For now, I just want you to see that I saw it. I wasn't running off starry-eyed. I ran the numbers 3 times, front and back, good news and bad, in a lawn chair in the cold for 2 months, and they kept coming out the same. So one morning in April, I put the legal pad down, and I went inside, and I told Danny I wanted to take a trip. I didn't sell everything and burn the boats. I'm not built that way. What I did was buy a round-trip ticket, a scouting trip, 3 weeks, to go see the place with my own eyes before I bet the last of Eileen's maple tree on it. That was the deal I made with myself. Go look. Come home. Then decide. The flying about killed me, I'll be honest. 20-some hours of it, Lincoln to Denver to somewhere over the ocean to Bangkok, and then a little hop north. 69 years old, folded into a seat built for a jockey, my knees screaming. watching the little airplane on the screen crawl across a map of countries I couldn't have found a year before. I remember thinking, somewhere over the Pacific at 3 a.m. body time, "What in God's name are you doing, Roger? You could be in the garage right now." Then the door of the airplane opened and Chiang Mai in Thailand walked in and hit me in the face. I mean the heat. Nobody can prepare you for it, and everybody tries. It's not Nebraska heat. Nebraska heat is a July afternoon that beats you flat and then quits at sundown. This was a wet, thick, living heat that wrapped around you like a warm rag and did not let go at night, not one bit. And it smelled, that's the thing I wasn't ready for. It smelled like 100 things at once. Diesel and flowers and charcoal smoke and something frying in garlic and something sweet rotting in a gutter and incense underneath all of it. I stood on the curb outside that little airport at 11 at night, sweating through my good shirt, 69 years old, and I did not know one single soul on that entire continent. I'll tell you, that first night I came close to being a coward about it. I got to the little guest house I'd booked, and the fella at the desk said something to me in Thai, and I said something back in Nebraska, and we just stood there grinning at each other, both of us lost. And I got up to my room and sat on the end of the bed under a ceiling fan that just pushed the hot air around, and I thought about the lawn chair and the gray light and the Christmas totes, and I thought, at least I knew what that was. But I'd made a deal with myself. 3 weeks. So the next morning I made myself go out and walk. And here's where it starts to turn. Slow, the way real things turn. Not a lightning bolt. A morning. I'd rented a little room on the east side of the river. The Ping River runs right through Chiang Mai, and the East Bank, a neighborhood called Wat Ket, is the old quiet side, less flash than the tourist part. And I walked out my door about 6 a.m. because the heat's kinder then and my body still thought it was afternoon anyway. And the street was already alive. There was a woman setting up a cart, ladling something into bowls, and monks, real monks, barefoot, in orange robes, walking single file down the lane, collecting their morning alms from folks who knelt on the sidewalk with rice. I'd never seen anything like it in my life, not on a television. In front of me, close enough to touch, in the wet gray morning. The woman at the cart caught me gawking. Older gal, my age maybe, apron on, hair pulled back, and she didn't speak but 3 words of English, and I didn't speak 3 words of Thai, but she pointed at the pot and pointed at me and raised her eyebrows, which is a language every human being on earth speaks, and I nodded like a fool. And she handed me a bowl of the most extraordinary thing I have ever eaten in my life, khao swa. I'd learned to call it a curry noodle soup with crispy noodles piled on top, and a wedge of lime and some pickled something on the side. Cost me maybe 60 baht, not even $2. I stood there on the curb eating that soup, sweat running down my back, monks going by, a rooster hollering somewhere, a motorbike weaving past close enough to feel the wind of it, and something in my chest that had been clenched up for 4 years just let go. A little, just a little. I didn't get on a plane and become a new man. I want to be honest about that because the videos always lie about that part. I ate a bowl of soup and I felt 1 notch better than I'd felt in a long time, and that was all it was. But when you've been at 0 for 4 years, 1 notch is an earthquake. 1 notch, you remember. 1 notch you'll fly across the world to feel again. I finished the soup. The woman Pensri, her name turned out to be, though it'd be weeks before I could say it right, she took my empty bowl and she laughed at me kindly, at the state of me sweating, and she waved me off down the lane. And I walked. And I kept walking. And I had 2 weeks and 5 days left, and for the first time in a long time I did not want them to end. 3 weeks went fast. And the whole time, the old bus driver in me was doing what he does, running the route, watching the schedule, checking whether the thing worked in real life or just on a yellow legal pad in a cold garage. So I kept books, actual books, in a little notebook I bought at a 7-Eleven, because there is a 7-Eleven on every corner in Thailand, and they will sell you a toasted ham sandwich and pay your electric bill at the same counter, which still tickles me. And I wrote down every baht I spent for 3 weeks, and then I sat down at a coffee place by the river and I added it up, and I compared it against the legal pad from home. And it proved out. It genuinely proved out, which I hadn't quite let myself believe. Here's the real budget, the one I live on now, and I'll give it to you straight because the straight version is the only version worth having. Rent on my place a clean 1-bedroom on the East Bank, tile floors, a little balcony, Walking distance to Pensri's cart is 13,000 baht, right around $400 a month. The electric with the air conditioning running, which up north you need less than you'd think because the nights cool off, runs me maybe 3,000 baht, call it $90, in the hot months and a lot less otherwise. Food and I eat like a king, understand. I eat out more than I ever did in Nebraska because it's cheaper than cooking. Food's about 14,000 baht, a bit over $400. Getting around, a red Songthu here and there, those shared pickup trucks that run like buses, plus a grab car when it's raining. Plus I bought a used bicycle, maybe 2,500 baht a month. Phone and internet, next to nothing, under 1,000 baht. And then I set money aside every month for the doctor and for the MISC, the household stuff, the visa costs spread out, a little fun. Add it up and I land right around 45,000 baht a month, a little under $1,400. Same as the legal pad, same as the strangers in the boring forums. The number was true. And against $2,800 a month coming in, that leaves me even after I set aside for Medicare, which I'll explain better than $1,000 a month I do not have to spend. For a man who 4 years ago was doing rent math twice in a leasing office and not believing it, I cannot tell you what that does to your sleep. Now, I promised you the honest parts, and settling in was not all bowls of soup. The visa about drove me to drink. I did the in-country nono, the sensible road for an old fella, and to make it work I parked the 800,000 baht, about $24,000, damn near my whole share of Eileen's house, in a Bangkok bank account, and it has to sit there and season, months, before they'll process you, and you cannot touch it. I signed the last form with my hand actually shaking. Then there's the 90-day report, where every 3 months you have to go tell the immigration office you still live where you said you live, and the annual renewal. And each one is a morning of taking a number and sitting on a plastic chair under a fan watching a board, feeling every one of your years. It's not hard. It's just humbling, and you'd better make your peace with humbling. The bank about did me in too. I sat in a marble-cooled branch of Bangkok Bank with young beer along to translate, pushing my whole life across the counter to a girl younger than my granddaughter, and she counted it and stamped a book and slid it back, and that was that 800,000 baht of Eileen's maple tree, locked up to season. I walked out into the heat feeling like I'd handed my heart to a stranger and gotten a receipt. Then, not an hour later, I paid my new phone bill at a 7-Eleven counter next to a rack of toasted sandwiches, and the clerk gave me a little slip and a bow, and I laughed out loud on the sidewalk at the whole lopsided wonder of it. That's the thing about this life. Terrifying and easy, both at once, all day long. And the language. Lord, the language. Thai is a tonal thing. The same word said 5 ways means 5 different things, and one of them is probably an insult you didn't mean. English is around in the tourist parts and the hospitals, but out where I live, on the East Bank, it is not a given, and it should not be a given. It's their country. I made an absolute jackass of myself for months. I once tried to order chicken, and by the tone of it I have no idea what I actually asked for, but Pensri laughed so hard she had to sit down. But I learned my hellos sawasdi crap and my thank yous kap kun crap, and I learned that if you try, if you make the effort and take the joke on yourself, people meet you halfway. Every time. That's the thing about here that America forgot how to do. I flew home after those 3 weeks. I want you to know I did. I went back to the garage and the lawn chair in the gray, and I sat in it for 1 week, and the deciding was done in about 10 minutes. I called Kathy first, out in Denver, because she's the worrier, and I told her what I was going to do. Kathy cried, not the good kind of crying. Dad, you're 69 years old. You're going to be alone on the other side of the earth. What if you fall? What if you get sick? Who's going to? And she wasn't wrong to ask it. Those are the right questions. I didn't have all the answers, and I told her so. What I had was a number that worked and a bowl of soup that made my chest unclench, and at 69, with the years I had left, I decided that was enough to go on. Danny was quiet about it, which is Danny. Mark said, "Go, Pop." That was all. Go, Pop. I think about that a lot. So I went. For real this time. 1 suitcase and a carry-on and the 800,000 baht already waiting in a Thai bank. I was 69 when I walked out Danny's door for the last time, and I've had 2 birthdays here since, so the way I do the arithmetic on everything, 69 going out and 71 now. It reconciles. I checked it 3 times, same as always. And then the part nobody tells you. The first months alone, the real ones, not the scouting trip honeymoon, were hard. They were genuinely hard, and if I painted them any other way, I'd be doing you a disservice. Because a 3-week visit is a vacation. Living somewhere is different. The heat that was exotic in April was just relentless by June. The rainy season came and the sky fell out of the world every afternoon. Warm rain by the bucket, and the streets flooded to my ankles, and my knees ached in the damp. The novelty wore off the noodles, and the loneliness that I thought I'd left in Danny's garage, turns out it packs light and follows you. It found me. About 7 weeks in, on a Sunday evening, sitting on my little balcony watching a family across the Sai eat their supper together, all of them laughing at something. 3 generations of them, and me with my one plate and nobody to laugh with. And it came down on me like the rainy season sky. I had a bad night that night. I'll admit it plainly because I suspect somebody watching this needs to hear that it happens and it passes. I sat on that balcony and I thought, what have you done, you old fool? You sold Eileen's house well, your quarter of it, and you flew away from your grandchildren to be lonely in the heat instead of lonely in the cold. At least in Nebraska somebody spoke English at me. At least Danny was down the hall. I had my phone in my hand and I pulled up the flights home. I got as far as the part where you pick your seat. And here's what stopped me. It wasn't willpower. I want to be clear. I'm not a strong man. I was 1 click from going home. What stopped me was the arithmetic, the same thing that started it. I sat there with the flight home on the screen and I asked myself the bus driver's question. All right, and then what? You land in Lincoln? And then what? The house is still sold. The rent's still more than half your check. The lawn chair's still in the garage. Danny's spare room is still the grandkids' room now. There is no old life to go back to, Roger. You didn't leave a life. The life left first. This is the only road with anything on it. I put the phone down. I didn't feel brave. I felt cornered in a way, but cornered toward the right thing. And the next morning this is true, and it's almost embarrassing how small it was. I went down to Pensry's cart like every morning, and she took one look at my face. She didn't have the English to ask what was wrong, and I didn't have the Thai to tell her. But she made a little TSK sound, and she filled my bowl fuller than usual, and she pointed me to the plastic stool by her cart instead of sending me off down the lane, and she just let me sit there, in the morning cool, while she worked and hollered at her regulars and the monks went by. She let me be near people who were glad enough to have me near, and I sat on that little stool for an hour. That's how it turns, I've learned. Not with a grand gesture. With a fuller bowl and a stool to sit on and somebody noticing your face was wrong. Kreng Jai, they call a piece of it here a kind of caring that doesn't make a fuss, that gives you room, that meets you sideways instead of head on. It's quieter than a Nebraska casserole brigade. But it is every bit as real, and I was starting, slowly, to be able to feel it. I told Kathy on our video call that week that I'd had a wobble. I didn't tell her how close, and she said, "Do you want to come home, Dad?" And I sat with it, honest, for a good few seconds. And I said, No, I don't think I do. I think I'm just getting born here, and getting born hurts. She got quiet. Then she said she'd look at flights to come see me. That was the first crack of light in the family part of this. I'll take it up next. Belonging didn't arrive. It accumulated. That's the truest thing I can tell you about the middle of this story. It came a morning at a time, a bowl at a time, a face at a time, until one day I looked up and I had a life. Pensry's cart was the anchor of it. I became a regular, and being a regular is how you belong here. It's not grand adoption. It's just showing up until your face is part of the furniture. She started saving me the crispy noodles she knew I liked. Her nephew, a young fella everybody calls Beer. Half the young men here have a nickname like that, Beer or Golf or Boy. He drove a Songthieu, and he took it on himself to be my guy. And he'd cart me to the immigration office on report day and wait and translate and not let them baffle the old Farang. Farang, that's what they call us Westerners, and it's not an insult. It's just what you are. I got called Farang so many times I started answering to it. And there was an old boy from Oregon, name of Cal, 74, been here 9 years, who I met the way you'd expect in line at the immigration office, both of us cussing at the same form. Cal knew everything. Which bank, which hospital, which noodle lady, which day the good market runs at Watcat. He'd been where I was landed, lonely, nearly bolted, and he told me his own version over a Chiang beer one night, and I felt about 10 pounds lighter hearing it, knowing the wobble was normal, knowing a man could come out the other side of it, with 9 good years and counting. The market on the East Bank got to be my church, if you want to know the truth. Wararat Kad Luang. The locals call it a great crowded barn of a place across the river, and the Sunday walking street in the old town, blocks and blocks of it, and I'd take the bicycle or a red songthae and just go be among people. I, who used to watch the whole town of Lincoln from behind a windshield, alone in a driver's seat now. I was down in it, part of the crowd, buying mangoes from a woman who saved the sweet ones for me. And there was the day I climbed Doi Suthep, the temple up on the mountain that watches over the whole city, 300-some steps up a dragon-railed staircase, my bad knees hollering the whole way, Cal one step behind telling me to quit being a hero and rest. And I got to the top, gold everywhere, bells the size of a man in a warm wind, the whole valley of Chiang Mai laid out hazy below, and I stood there sweating and gasping and grinning like a fool. 70 years old, and I'd climbed a mountain to a place I couldn't have found on a map 2 years before. A far cry from a lawn chair and a stack of Christmas totes. Then the big test, the one Kathy came for. She flew out in November because she did come, my worrier. My Kathy and I was a wreck about it, cleaning that little apartment like the Queen was coming. And the first 2 days she was polite, and I could see her doing the thing I'd feared, cataloging everything her old dad had given up. The heat, the distance, the plastic stools, the language he still mangled. I watched her be worried at my whole life, and I thought, well, this was too much to hope for. And then it was Loy Krathong. If you don't know it, it's a festival in November, and in Chiang Mai it's the one with the lanterns, Yi Peng. Thousands of paper lanterns lit and let go all at once into the night sky, and little floats of flowers and candles set out onto the river to carry off your bad luck and your grief. And I took Kathy down to the Ping River, our river, at dusk, and Pensri was there, and Beer and Cal, and half the faces from the lane. And Pensri showed Kathy how to fold the banana leaf float and set the candle in it, this Thai woman and my Denver daughter with no words in common, heads bent together over a flower boat, and we knelt at the water and set them out. And I said a little something to Eileen, out loud, quiet, the way you can when a whole sky is full of lights and nobody's watching one old man cry. And I looked up, and the sky was full of lanterns, 1,000 little fires going up, and Kathy had a hold of my arm with both hands. And she said, I'll remember it till I die. She said, okay, Dad. Okay, I get it now. That was all. I get it now. That's when I knew the family part would be all right. Not fixed, not perfect. Kathy still worries. Mark still can't afford to visit. There are Christmases I'm a face on a screen and it aches. I won't pretend it doesn't. Being far from the grandkids is the real price of this. The one honest cost I pay every single day. And anybody who tells you it's free is lying. But Kathy went home and told the others what she'd seen. And the phone calls got easier. And the house that got split stopped being the wound of this story and started being just the door I happened to walk out of. That's the difference. Same fact. Different door. I'll tell you where all this landed, and the one small thing I want to leave you with next. I'm 71 now. I've been here going on 2 years. Let me tell you about an ordinary Tuesday, because the ordinary Tuesdays are the whole prize, and nobody puts those in a video. I wake up without an alarm because my body's finally quit bracing for something. I take the bicycle down to Pensri's cart in the cool of the morning, and I have my khao swa, and I sit on my stool, and I have about 40 words of Thai now, which is enough to be teased with. And being teased is a form of being loved, I've decided. The monks go by. I put rice in a bowl for them now myself. Most mornings a Nebraska Lutheran kneeling on an East Bank sidewalk, giving alms to Buddhist monks. And if that doesn't tell you a man can still surprise himself at 71, nothing will. I've got my systems for the grown-up parts, because you have to. My health. Here's how I settled it, and I settled it on purpose. Medicare doesn't cover me here, that's just a fact. Doesn't travel past the border. So I made a deliberate call. I kept paying my Medicare Part B, which is a little over $200 a month, and I treat it as my door home, my catastrophic plan, so that if something truly big goes wrong, I can get on a plane to the States and be covered. And here, day to day, I just pay out of my own pocket because I can, because it's cheap and it's good. A visit to the doctor at Chiang Ram, one of the fine private hospitals here, runs me maybe $20 to $50. Walk in, no drama, better care, and shorter waits than I ever got back home. I looked hard at buying full private insurance too, and at my age the premiums climb steep and they wriggle out of the pre-existing stuff, so I made my choice with my eyes open. Part B for the door home, cash for the everyday, and a cushion I keep for the middle-sized scares. It's not the only right answer, it's my answer, and I made it on purpose, and making it on purpose is the whole point. The money, since I know you're doing the arithmetic, because I would be too. About $2,800 a month comes in, steady, till I die. I live full and easy on about $1,400. Even after I set aside for that Part B, I've got better than $1,000 a month I never touch, and I've used it, these 2 years, to build my cushion back up past what the house split ever left me, and to buy the plane tickets home that I could never have dreamed of buying before. The thing that ran me out of America, the arithmetic, is the exact thing that set me free here. Same numbers, different country. Turns out the numbers were never the problem. The place was. Now, I told you at the start there'd be no villains, and there aren't. My kids didn't do me wrong. We split a house because splitting it was fair and life is expensive for everybody and nobody had a nickel to spare. That's not a betrayal. That's just America right now, being hard on old people and young people both. What the split did was shove me out a door I never would have had the nerve to open on my own. I'd have died in that lawn chair, grateful and miserable and a burden in my own mind, if a house hadn't gotten divided 4 ways and left me with nowhere to sit but a plane. So I don't curse it. Some mornings, kneeling on that sidewalk with the monks going by, I damn near thank it. If you're sitting somewhere gray right now, doing your own rent math twice because you can't believe it, I'm not going to tell you to do what I did. It's not for everybody, and anybody who says it is selling. It's hot and it's far, and you'll miss people and you'll make a fool of yourself in a language you'll never master. But I'll tell you it's possible, that the number can be true, that a man can be emptied all the way out at 69 and still get born again on a plastic stool at a noodle cart on the far side of the world, that the last chapter doesn't have to be the lawn chair. Before I let you go, one honest thing. If any of this landed, if you've got that same itch I had in the cold, wondering whether the math could ever work for somebody like you, there's a free tool down in the description worth a look. The Honest Thailand Retirement Starter Kit, it's called. I didn't make it, and I'm not selling you a thing. It's a plain self-check that's as willing to talk you out of this as into it, and a worksheet where you run your own real numbers, city by city, the way I ran mine on a yellow legal pad in a cold garage. Costs you nothing. And if it tells you to stay right where you are, well, that's an honest answer too, and it's yours. That's all I've got. Go easy on yourself, and read the numbers 3 times. I always do.